Okay, that's good.
Do.
Yeah, that's
Do-do.
good. I'm sorry, go doo-doo socks?
No, I don't want to go do.
Brought to you by some guys on the internet.
This is Getting Tabled.
With your hosts Jason the Bruce,
You guy!
George the Yang,
I hope you're all entertained by my inaptitude.
Jason aka Major Socks.
We've been doing this and talking about various stuff. One of the stuff.
Now sit back, relax, and get tabled.
Hello, future people, and welcome to episode 97 of Getting Tabled with your host, the Bruce.
Hello, George. Did I break you there for a minute? Did I?
A little,
Well,
I think.
just that whole conversation leading up to, and then the intro saying, brought to you by some guys on the internet. Like, it couldn't get any more, like, horribly random at that point.
Oh, dear. And with us, we have the main man, the reason everybody listens. We have
That's right.
Recruit Socks.
Recruit.
Yep.
Having demoted.
Whoa. Actually, Bruce, if you really want to get under skin, call him Officer Candidate Socks.
Officer
That's even
Candidate
worse.
Socks.
That's even worse.
How is
Yeah,
that?
Happy New
How
Year,
is that
everyone.
worse than the literal kickers of the crap?
Because like he's a candidate and like they have to like still go through and select him.
No,
To
I've got
become
a better one. I've got
Wait,
a better one.
wait,
It's Air
but
Cadet
you're-
Socks. Because that way he's not even in the real military. He's just pretending to be.
I love you guys. Anyways, yes, we are back and we got George, who's freezing up in Wyoming.
I'm not freezing yet.
It's only minus
So-
3.
I've still got a t-shirt on. I'm not poking through it yet.
Anyways,
Yeah, we took a break over Christmas for a few reasons, largely because it was scheduling conflicts. I was going to be in Tassie for that time, and unfortunately, the equipment that I would normally have used was not working. Also, quite frankly, it was a really quick trip, and I really didn't have the time for it. So,
Bruce,
took
stop giving
time off.
excuses.
no.
Let's be honest. We all couldn't stand each other after spending half the year with each other, every other weekend doing this. We needed a break from each other.
Yeah, because we spend so much time together in our different countries and different states and never seeing each other.
yes, we did.
Yep, totally.
No, it's good to be back.
Yeah. So we are continuing on. We got a little bit of news. We're not covering everything this fortnight because the big thing for this is that during Game Talk, we're going to talk about our highlights from last year. We're not doing a full dedicated episode this time. We may do that at the end of this year.
And lowlights. Don't forget the lowlights. There's a low
there
light.
is definitely a low light. By rights, there should be 2 low lights, but I'm saving one of them for something that we hopefully have coming up in February because I don't really want to have the conversation twice. There has been something that we have discussed with our Patreon quite openly and hinted at a few times, but not really covered in depth because we didn't know how far we could. Yeah. The Kickstarter
If you want to find out,
debacle.
become a Patreon.
True. Actually, it's still in the
Yeah.
Patreon Discord. By the way, thank you for the people that's been joining recently. We do appreciate it. Competition is still going on. You can win a Dropsquard Commander set. So you get it's a full fleet. You get the Dreadnought, you get a starter fleet, you get the Cruisers box and a Frigates box. It's all going to one lucky Patreon. It gets drawn in April. This is our first competition that we've done. And it's good to see that it's finally starting to draw in a couple of members, which is good.
Also, on top of your name being drawn, Bruce will also draw a portrait of you.
Given that I can't draw, that's going to be really poorly done.
You're really scary looking.
That's part of the joke.
Okay.
Because you said you can't draw to save your life.
No, I really can't.
So- That's the joke, man. Jeez.
Oh, fine.
Let's play a game.
Do the news.
Newly received or noteworthy information, especially about recent or important events.
So, from TT Combat, we get famous admirals back.
Yes.
Yes.
So, famous admirals. Well, so the back is probably more so the drop zone side of the story.
Yeah,
because they also have them coming back as well. Drop Fleet have had them coming more or less since the game started. It just never really happened. I think to some extent because it was kind of hard to figure out how to do it. I mean, that's my. I couldn't really see how it was going to be done, I suppose. So I'm not necessarily saying that's for a fact. They have actually done really nicely. There's actually quite a few that's a free download that you can access. So it's probably the first major step forward that the game has had, potentially, for at least 6 months or so. I mean, we was quite critical on them releasing the 1.5 rules, and I still stand by everything that I've said in regards to that. I do have a review on the rulebook that you can look at on the YouTube channel. I mean, the bonus of that was that the rulebook is so much easier to read now, like ridiculously so, because reading through those old two rulebooks, I mean, we fought tooth and nail trying to get through those for 5 years. They were never really easy to read. So the new one is definitely a help in that regard. But the game needs a second edition really badly. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise anymore. Anyway, that is something that is very, very good to see. So the example they give here in the article is Granite Halsey, which is a cool name. 540 points. Has their very own Washington supercarrier. It's got an admiral value of 7. And you can read the rest of it there. It's good. It's quite good.
Do you know why Admiral Halsey is such a good admiral name?
Granite Halsey, but sure. No, why?
Admiral Halsey was an actual naval admiral.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was a naval admiral in World War II, and
was going up the Pacific, I assume.
Pacific on aircraft carriers. He was on the Enterprise early on in the war. So,
not Kirk's.
Not
no,
Kirk's. Not that Enterprise.
Kirk wouldn't be able to compare with the real man. He'd be too busy sleeping with the aliens.
No, but it's good to see a few, because they have 3 per faction too. So you've got a variety of different admirals to choose from, in twins. For the Shaltari.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the Shaltari one's kind of cool with the twins of Aru, which to me that looks like you got to take 2 ships.
Yeah.
For that admiral.
Yeah.
Well, yep.
But that is included in the points.
Yeah.
So I quite like
one
this.
admiral per each ship.
I also like the fact that there's some expensive ones, there's some cheap ones. So in theory, there's always going to be a place for them. I mean, obviously the whether they're competitive or not will be that will need to be tested over time. That's not really the exciting part here. I suspect that there will be parts of these that will start showing up in tournament fleets. Otherwise, as I said, the link to download is free. So all you need to do is download them. The second part of the story we kind of started with already, which is famous commanders. So this is something when the second edition of Drop Zone came out, this got taken out of the game temporarily. Because they wanted to revisit how they all worked. All of the vehicles that were kind of exclusive vehicles kind of got reworked into regular vehicles. And there seemed to be a false narrative in the community for a while that they kind of forgot that it was a temporary change. Because there was definitely voices out that were like, I'm really upset that they changed this and that they've removed them, as opposed to, I mean, the fair thing would have been something more along the lines of, we've been waiting for a while, when is this happening? Because it had been like a year and a half. But I quite like the result of what they've done. They've clearly been putting some time into this. So, I mean, again, we've got multiples per faction. So you got Kate Rawlins, which is UCM. The example that they give for PHR is Marcus Barros, which is in one of the cool scorpion-looking things. I can't remember what that's called off the top of my Nemesis? No, that's the laser. Oh, no, I am right. It's the Nemesis. And then we have Arkenton the Mad. I may have said that wrong. So again, like, these are all really good. I mean, we've got 140 points, 355.
Where'd Socks go? Did you kill Socks?
Oh, he's obviously been disconnected. No, he's still there. I reckon his net's died.
I'm back.
Tap twice if you can hear us.
Talk twice.
What happened? Disconnect?
I think my camera just turned off, and then I could still hear you guys. My camera just went off.
All right, I'm just going to go back. So the other half of this story is famous commanders for Drop's Zone Commander. I almost said the name of the next story. So this is something that got taken out when 2nd edition was introduced, but it was temporary, and they did make that clear at the time. I'm kind of mentioning this because over the 18 months since this happened, members of the community seems to have forgotten that was a temporary thing and started getting vocal about how they were angry that this was removed from the game. I think part of that is because a lot of the vehicles that only existed previously for the Admirals also got kind of reworked to become vehicles in their own right, so that until these were ready, people could still use them in games. I actually think that they've done that really, really well as well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this was something that definitely needed to happen. And probably even a little more so than the fleet stuff. I think it really shows here that they've been putting some time in. I mean, they've only given 3 examples here, but we do have multiple examples, multiple options per faction again. We've got Kate Rawlins. She's 365 points. We've got Marcus Barros, which is 355 points. He's in one of the really cool Nemesis Scorpions. That is one of my favorite models of the game. And we have Arkenton the Mad for 100 and... Is it 160 or 140? I think it's 160. But we don't have a picture of him, so he just goes into something by the look of it, as opposed to belonging to a certain type of vehicle, which is odd. But yeah, both of these are available. You can download them for free. They will obviously be in the builder as well. I believe at this point they were not in the builder at the time when the article went live, but they are supposed to be there now from memory. So,
holy crap! Did you read how broken the twins are?
Why are they broken? Hang on, let's go up and have a look.
Drop fleet.
Both ships are they're separate ships, but they're only both removed when both are debris. So if you blow one up, they're both still there till the other one's blown up. And they have open.
Yes.
Oh. If you blow one of them up, it's still not going to be able to take fire shots and stuff, though.
It's still there. It's still a ship.
I kind of like that, actually.
Because if you read at the bottom of the paragraph, this could be even more difficult for your opponent as they gain open. Can't hit both if they're nowhere near each other.
I really like that. That's genuinely something different. And when was the last time Shaltari got something that was different and was worth taking? I actually think this would be worth taking.
Virtually everything's different and worth taking.
But people that play Shaltari only play one list constantly. And they have played the same list more or less since the game started.
It's because it's so different from everything else and it's just that good.
My point is that not only is this different, but I think this is going into... for 310 points, I think this is worth it.
That's really worth it. That's Well, it hands out vectored, so... But that last bit, they have open, and you can only get rid of both ships when you destroy both ships. If you destroy one ship, it's still there till the other one's destroyed.
Yeah. Cunning positioning. Whenever a ship of tonnage medium moves during its activation, target is the moving ship. Effect, the moving ship gains vectored until... Oh, that is nice. Yeah.
That's gross.
Yep. They are destroyers, those ships, aren't they?
Those are cruisers.
They're cruisers?
Yeah,
Okay.
those are a medium cruiser.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a medium cruiser.
Which one is it? I'm trying to picture the
Amber.
It's the amber?
It has the plasmas.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
disintegrator banks.
Or disintegrators, yeah.
On the full article, it is, like, the actual download, it is on there. I just couldn't, because of the way that I'm operating this, I don't have it open. But those that listened to our last episode may remember that we did quite a big spiel on a certain game that we initially started talking about, like, at least 5 years ago at this point. The conversation started between Major Socks and a certain Dave that helps write the games. And the thing at the time was...
Nigel.
And Nigel as well.
Nigel. It started with Socks, though. It started with Socks after the interview. We discussed this last time.
I asked him at Gen Con in 17.
But he didn't ask him on camera. It was a follow-up with, this is what we were discussing afterwards. And then, yeah, Nigel asked it. Unfortunately, we were not able to trace down the original interview with Dave. It looks like that's been lost to time, unfortunately. But we did some real digging. We tried to get access to everything, but it's all gone, unfortunately. But TT Combat, 3 days after that, and we'll talk a little bit about the side question that we have in a moment, they have announced some Drop Universe news. They start teasing about what we were talking about and why this is important. And then, right at the bottom of the article, so the jig is up as there is no Dropsquard Commander ever. Now, that's very clearly a typing error, because in the very next phrase, they talk about StrikeTeam Commander, which is very clearly the accident that they've made, because they accidentally typed it wrong. In the several places this has been mentioned now. They've accidentally written StrikeTeam instead of Dropsquard. Because what did we say we would do if they put a different name out? And for the record, I said during that thing that there was a name that they were toying with. This is what... I have learnt more about this since then. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say. I probably will save it for when we have a certain someone on the podcast. Because there is reasons... There's some fairly boring reasons as to why they felt the need to change the name. And like one of the things we'd always kind of question is, although we'd always said, like, we're not taking ownership of it, like, you can have it. Like, we'd question if maybe that was part of it, but no, it had nothing to do with it at all. It purely and simply was boring stuff, as you both know at this point. It is a fairly good reason why they wanted to do it and change the name, but I'm sorry, it's still Dropsquard Commander, and that's what we will always call it.
I have to agree. And they released or showed off the Marine Force Recon drop troop, which I think looks pretty cool because it was with that same article.
Yes. It's probably my least favorite of the 5 that we've seen so far. I kind of like the redesign, but it's I don't know. I think it looks.
I would have much preferred the goggles to be down instead of like on top of the helmet. Doing like what's the point of the goggles? Like, you know, some gunnery sergeant out there is going to be chewing his butt for not having his goggles on while he's using his jetpack. Then,
yeah. Also, like, he already has goggles built into the helmet. Why does he need goggles? I mean, I know it's sci-fi and the rule of cool overrules realism. I do like all 4 of them, but I kind of feel, for me personally, I think the UCM is the weakest of the 5.
There's 5. Because we had the Pungari.
I said 5.
You said 4 initially.
Did I? Oh, sorry.
You said 4, then you said 5.
I misspoke.
There's actually 6.
Oh, well, I was wrong anyway. It's of all of them, it's the personally I find it the weakest of the 6. I can't even really point as to. I mean, the goggles as well as lenses in his helmet is weird. I don't mind that. I don't know. It's just I don't really know what it is. They're just I don't know. It's just everything else kind of seems to have its own thing. I kind of feel like it's because that and the Resistance guy feel so similar in the way they look. Now, I realize there's obviously going to be reasons for that. But I'm not saying they're the same. They're not. They're very clearly different. But they kind of feel very close to me.
Yeah. I was going to say the Resistance fighter is the second coolest of all of them behind the PHR.
I think my favorite is the Pungari, honestly.
The Pungari looks like it just needs to be running around going nah, 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 nah.
Yeah, a little bit. So, what was the thing on the side that I wanted to mention? So, yeah, obviously, yes, the joke is StrikeTeam Commander. We are continually going to run with this forever because it's not. It's Dropsquard. It's clearly a typing error. You will be sick of
unless they hit us with a cease and desist.
Which they won't.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you they won't because I've already been told that they laughed at it the first time I said it. There's also a Project Hunter. We know even less about this. But here's the thing. I have a suspicion, and we will ultimately end up asking this question in person. But I suspect that they never intended to announce StrikeTeam as part of this year's Christmas stuff. I have a few reasons as to this. Obviously, we were talking about it quite heavily. There's also a Facebook group that had started under the name Dropsquard Commander in anticipation for the fact that the game was clearly coming. I do know for a fact that up until the point that we were talking, nobody had actually started any serious work on the game at that stage. It was being worked on, but it was not one of the major projects yet. That may have changed within the time frame of when I had heard that, but that's only a matter of a month or so. Obviously, you can't write much in the matter of a game. And also, if you read the article, it kind of is worded that way too, that this is very early on. This entire article kind of feels like they're going, hey guys, we know that you're excited, but can you please stop saying Dropsquard Commander? It's almost begging the community to stop using that word because it was starting to run and it was starting to snowball
real fast.
And it was becoming a problem because at that point they already knew that they were using a different name, and if they had have let it get any further out of control, it was going to become a problem to the point where it may have gotten. I mean, I don't know if it would have gotten backlash. I mean, we jokingly give it backlash, obviously, but that's just because we are who we are.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry. Owen, if I'm right on this, I'm not apologizing. I kind of feel like this got announced because A, we were adding to that snowball effect, and B, Michelle created the Facebook group and the community was jumping on the Facebook group and actually starting to get very excited.
Real fast.
So they've nipped this in the bud before it became a problem, which is a very smart thing for them to have done. Like I said, I don't know this for a fact, but I feel the evidence seems to support this. I have deliberately not asked if I'm right on this because I want to ask the man himself when he comes on. I can confirm at some stage we will be having Louis on the podcast. I cannot confirm when that is at this stage, but it will be happening at some point. We are discussing when at the moment. We've actually been talking about it for a while, but we're actually getting onto it. Project Hunter is interesting. That kind of looks like it's going to be like a board game type thing, but we don't really know anything about it. it kind of sounds like it's going to be a cooperative thing against the monsters, but I don't know. We don't really know anything about that yet. That's got even less work than the other one does.
Do you know what I think would be kind of flipping cool? And it just occurred to me looking at the Project Hunter picture. How cool is that if we get some of the PHR walkers in 32 mil?
That'd be awesome. I mean, they currently already do have that upsize, the Ares, that was just a kind of like a desktop. But yeah,
wasn't that 75 mil?
It was close to that size. I can't remember what size it was. It was the Ares. But
it was big. I remember that. So yeah, we are obviously very excited about this because we have personal connection. Like, we're not involved in it. We didn't create it, but we've had personal investment in this for a while. We kind of started the conversation on this before TT Combat were even involved. So we have some personal investment here, and we definitely will be following this through. I doubt that we will see a release for StrikeTeam before the end of the year. I don't think we will see this until 2024. That's how early this is. Hopefully I'm wrong, but yeah, I don't think we will see this for a while. If we see it at
Gen Con or UK Expo, we'd be surprised.
Yes, we definitely won't be seeing it at Adepticon. You might see the models. I don't know if they're at Adepticon actually.
Yeah, I don't know.
Louis, let us know if you're at Adepticon or not. Moving on. Mantic. Mantic are releasing some smaller starter sets for for Kings of War. Now they're calling them ambush products. So these are smaller box sets. I'm just going to open the Ratkin as an example, just because this is just an example of what you're getting in the box. So they're kind of similar to how 40K are doing their smaller boxes. Just it's a sample of how the army works, basically. So you're getting one big hero. Unfortunately, that hero is PVC. And then 2 squads of plastic minis. They're not all identical. The boxes are slightly different. So the Empire of Dust. But they're all kind of like the same sort of worth. Empire of Dust has a lot more squads and some chariots. But the contents of the boxes roughly similar. It's just that you don't really have that one big hero as part of it. So I genuinely think these are a really smart idea. It's a much easier way into the game. Like, they do have box sets that you can buy already. But this is obviously a smaller purchase. And if people are wanting to dip their toe rather than dive straight in, it's certainly a much more affordable way to do so. I will say
I think at this...
Yeah?
I was gonna say, I think in this hobby environment with, the financial investment into an army, I think it is just stupid on part of a game manufacturer if they do not have some sort of like quick, easy entry into an army.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what do I know about this game? I'm gonna spend $45 on this and get an idea versus I have to spend how many different squads. Oh, and this doesn't work with this really, and this is so much better. Games Workshop started it. I think it's good. TT Combat does this with the Zone and Fleet stuff. Seeing this stuff at that price, I think is a brilliant idea. I think it's the way any company should be going when they're trying to get you to open up your wallet, especially given prices these days.
I mean, not every game even has a 2-player starter set, which is also something every game must have.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that things used to be is that if you were buying into a game and you didn't want one of the armies that was in the 2-player starter set, you kind of had to do it the hard way, and it was a lot more expensive, and it genuinely did turn people off. So the fact that there are now easier ways, I mean, there's still things that are expensive. Look, it's just a fact of the gaming hobby. But the fact that it's making everything just that little bit easier. As far as mass fantasy battle, in my personal opinion, Kings of War is right up there at the top, alongside Conquest. I'd probably give the edge to Kings of War, but at that point, it's going to depend on how you like your games to work, because they do play very differently. And that is not intended as an insult to Conquest. I do love that game. I just feel that Kings of War's been around longer, and it's finited itself enough that it genuinely, I would argue that it's a must play. Honestly, it is that good.
Yeah, I'm looking at this, and this it's very reminiscent looking of the old Warhammer fantasy instead of what is now Sigmar, where everything is in a rank and file squad setup, which to me has its own little like cool aspect. That I enjoyed that more with fantasy. Don't get me wrong, I like Sigmar more than 40k. I like fantasy more than Sigmar.
I actually like Sigmar as well. I know that it has its haters, most of which only hate it because it's cool, or because they're still upset. And I actually do understand why people are upset. I'm not having a go over that. Kings of War, people seem to have this idea that Kings of War started because fantasy died, which is massively untrue. It had been around for years prior already at that point, and even when it did have its big surge from Kickstarter, it was still before fantasy died. It definitely took advantage of the fact that fantasy died, because they released free rules and say, hey, if you want something to play, hey, have this for free, we will take you on board. And that's exactly what happened. It took Games Workshop a lot of work to get those people back. Kings of War has been successful pretty much ever since. It's Mantic's big cash cow at this point, and has been for a while. I don't know exact levels of sales, but I would be surprised if this is not significantly in front of everything else that they sell. I know Firefight's not up there. They're certainly trying with Firefight, which is the 40k equivalent. I haven't played it. I don't have an opinion on it. They have Space Rats, which is kind of cool. I have been tempted to try them a few times, but no, I don't need any more games. All right.
9.
Until Dropsquad.
Yeah, when Dropsquad comes out, I'm definitely buying the Scourge. I don't have any Dropsquad models yet. I haven't brought any of those 6. They are all available to purchase at this stage. I will do it at some point, but
you might as well do it in one big large order.
Well, it's not even. Wait, most of our YouTube content has been me for a long time, but I can't continue to just buy things for the sake of putting them on the channel. I just can't afford it. And with my bike having the issues that it does, I'm having to be very careful with my purchases, because I don't know how much that's going to cost to fix. So it's probably going to be a while before I do a large order again. I'm just ordering snippets here and there at this stage. And I have such a huge backlog that I really don't need more. But this isn't about me.
Says every wargamer ever.
I know that I will make big purchases again. I'm putting a holder. I'm just slowly, because I still have stuff I haven't filmed, so I don't need anything new, even for content at this stage. Okay, January, we have releases coming for Dystopian Wars. Some quite big ones. We got a whole heap of Battlefleet sets coming out. So these are repackages of.
I thought you were going to say a hotel, because that ship kind of looks like a hotel.
It does a little bit, doesn't it? I think they are jets coming up from them. They look like they're rockets about to come up.
Oh.
On the side. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Because they are also the same shape as
some kind of an aircraft.
In the front there, you have 2 bases of aircraft, and they look identical.
Yeah.
So that's the Icarus battle fleet. We also have a couple of alternate ways that you can build that particular ship, as usual. They're going through, showing you off all of the different ways that you can build things. I'm just kind of skimming through this because there's quite a lot here. We also have the Halong battle fleet, which is one of the ones that we really liked because it had the giant dragon. So these are all like, they're repackages essentially, but it's an easier way to buy in. This is a full battle fleet in a box. I still love these dragons. Like, these are amazing. So this is resin and hard plastic, so you do have a little bit of a mix here. The smaller ships are all hard plastic. It's the bigger ones that are resin. And then we have the Union Battle Fleet faction. So this is an expansion of what came inside of the 2-player starter set that we unboxed. Wait, is it? No, sorry. No, it's not. It's an expansion of the other one. But this is the one that has the water wheel boats. I can't think what that steam
Paddle wheels.
paddle boats. Thank you. I forgot them last time we spoke about them too. Empire. I love this. This is an expansion of the one that I unboxed on the channel that Beasts of War gave me. I love this. I love the bigger ship. I love everything about this. I love the giant squids. Like, the giant squids are just so cool. Well, mechanical giant squids, but you know what I mean. Sultanate, another one that we really liked, and I still do. I think this is brilliant. They're just so pretty. I don't need more stuff. Stop making me want more stuff. The Enlightened Advanced. Yep.
The one thing I could say that I'm sure Sox can nod his head in agreement. Some of the token bases or stuff like that, where there's it's supposed to simulate the water. The fact that it's actually coming textured, so you can more easily do a water effect, is amazing. Because trying to freehand a water effect on a flat piece of plastic,
probably impossible.
No.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. The Canadian Frontline Squadrons are finally coming out as well. They had been teased, but they're finally coming out this month. I love the Canadian stuff. Not as much as I like the Enlightened stuff, though. Because, I am sorry, those giant sea monster-looking robots, you're not going to find anything better than that. That is amazing. And the fact that it's been sculpted to show that they're even bigger than what they look like, because that's still coming out of the water at that point. I'm hoping that we get to see a full-size one of these at some point. That would be cool. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming. Some of it's repackages and just easier stuff for people to buy in with. Some of it is expansions for other sets. But we also have some terrain. And I really like this terrain, actually. This is on Wild West Exodus and Malifaux scale, though. Although, in saying that, I reckon you could almost get away with saying this was some sort of sea platform. For some of them, at least. It's not what it's designed for. But in the case of like the machinery that they're starting off with, why couldn't that just be... I don't know how big it is, that's the thing. I mean, it might be too big where it would actually be a problem. But the individual silos, I mean, there's no reason why they can't just be giant silos in the middle of the ocean.
So,
yeah.
It pains me to say this, but this terrain for Wild West Exodus is very Wild West.
Yes.
Like the Will Smith
movie,
terrible movie.
Yes. It's a science fiction Wild West world. Why would it not give you that impression?
Because it looks like it belongs in that movie, which...
Not everything from that movie is bad. I mean, the design aesthetics behind it were cool. It just wasn't done very well for the film. But, I mean, the actual design aesthetic of it was great. The giant spider, as much as it was animated really poorly, still looked really cool.
I'll give you that.
You're not the first to make that comparison, though, and you are right. It definitely feels like it belongs in that world. But, like I said, I mean, it's an alternate sci-fi version of the Wild West. Why would it not remind you of that? Do you guys have any favorites? I mean, some of this is expansion stuff that we've seen before. I've obviously made clear what my favorite is. It's the giant sea monster things.
Yeah, the Enlightened Advanced Squadron stuff. Those giant robots. It is the most unique thing out of all of them, with a couple of exceptions. But for the most part, I mean, it's like there's nothing else like it, model wise.
Socks?
The Hemlong, I have to agree with you. I like those Colossus. Little dragons, the little flying dragons.
Yeah. They've always been popular.
I get the Union's got some flying robot things too. So I mean that's
Yes. Yep. All right. Moving on. There's this little game shop called Games Workshop. All right. First things first. We have a new hero coming out for Necromunda. This is a Goliath. He's the mightiest self-made man. He's strong enough that he needs a mohawk that's made out of metal. I don't think I've ever seen anything that looks more heavy metal than this thing does. I can't decide if I like it. I mean, there's definitely aspects of it that I enjoy. Like, I do like the mohawk, as stupid as it is. I really like it because it's the right kind of stupid. I think the cape's a bit much for me. I don't think that works. It might just be the paint job, though.
This model needs rules for 40K so that it can be taken as a Chaos Champion. I could see that. Screams Chaos Champion.
I could see that. I could see that entirely. And if they don't do rules for it, then people are just going to convert it anyway. I mean, you don't even need to convert it. You just take it from one and put it in the other. And then you just say that it's a Chaos Champion.
Glue a bolter onto the back of that gauntlet and call it good?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know. The only downside I have, I don't like the cape. That's the only thing I don't like about it. Everything else is fine. The cape's too loud. Or I don't know, it's just something about the cape that it feels off to me.
I'm not going to disagree with you, but I'm also going to say, how else would you do a cape for a guy that looks like this?
Well, that's fair. I don't know. It's just sometimes they get this accusation of they put too much detail into things, and I think this is the epitome of that. That the cape is it's just too much. I don't know. I don't know. It's just something about it that's off for me. It'll be interesting to see the individual parts, like if you can change him up a little bit. I doubt it because they pretty much don't do that with anybody anymore. We also get some hints of some new stuff that's coming, some extra heads, and they look like alien heads. They don't look human. I don't quite know what they're supposed to be. But that's down the bottom there, hiding. So this is obviously something that's being teased as something that's coming that we'll see probably in the next few weeks, I imagine.
Holy cow, check out those Molotov cocktails.
Mm-hmm.
That's some serious stuff. Like a grenade with a bottle of alcohol. Shrapnel and fire.
I kind of like that, yeah. Also from Games Workshop, we're getting some recreation of the ruined city of Osgiliath. So they have a history of doing some really nice terrain for Lord of the Rings, and this is not an exception. This looks amazing. This would
the tower towards the bottom, the Osgiliath tower, that is stunning.
Yeah. See, Lord of the Rings is a completely different scale. But there's certain things where you look at it and you go, you know what? I don't care that it's too small. I still want to see this on a Sigmar table because why not? I mean, who really cares if it's out of scale with something that's that large? Because how often are your miniatures going to be beside realistically, is there people that will look at it and go, oh, but that door is too small? Yes, but it looks cool. Who cares? Besides, all terrain is out of scale anyway. We discussed that with Terrain Tutor.
Yep.
The first building, I mean, it's the roof comes off. But it's very Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings, just perfect in its detail and its size and whatnot. The tower is amazing. The only thing I'm gonna knock on this is those two ruined squares.
They look the same as every other ruin.
Yeah, they look the same as every other ruined square corner thing that Games Workshop has put out in the last decade.
Longer than that.
If not more.
I mean, they don't look horrible. They just look the same as everything else.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it looks like a good ruined terrain. It looks like the same good ruined terrain from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, etc., etc. It's not bad, but it's boring. That tower is just...
It's going to be interesting to see what these actually look like. It looks like it's been... Because it says that you can build them as either completely intact or as ruined in the examples that they're showing. So it'd be interesting to see if you could build it so that it's both. And I hope that's how they've done it.
Like magnets and stuff. Yeah, I would hope to God too, because like the ruined tower top is cool. Like put a sniper in there, but also like, like the intact tower. It's just like, have it be like what's the word? Like words are hard. A narrative campaign where what happens to the tower? Does so and so take it? Now it's ruined, or do you defend it and it stays intact, or stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a group at the store that I play with at here locally. There's a group that are really into this. I think someone said they got it, so I may see it here in a couple months once they put it all together or something.
Yeah, this set looks amazing. The other thing I like about this is, this paint job looks really, really good, but it's also a really easy paint job to do. Like, there's nothing about it. They haven't painted this in a way that looks really hard. Like, all of these are fairly standard shades. It's very bones, and like there's clearly washes being used. You really wouldn't need to do much to make this look nice.
Well, I mean, the stonework, in my opinion, like, you can do that with 3 coats. Your base coat, a wash, a dry brush, and you could almost literally duplicate that effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they will eventually tell you what colours. I suspect that Rakarth flesh is amongst them. I would be surprised if it's not. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of this. That they've done really nicely on that.
It does look really cool.
Yeah. New set coming for Marvel Crisis Protocol. I had to look up to find out who Ulik was. Ulik is like a rock troll he's a classic Thor villain, basically, but he's just not one that I recognized. But that's not the big story of this box. The big story of this box is everybody's favorite. It's Beta Ray Bill. With Stormbreaker, because that's who Stormbreaker belongs to. For those that are not familiar with Beta Ray Bill, the giant axe hammer that Thor gets in Endgame, that's where this comes from.
Infinity War.
Sorry, you're right. It's Infinity War. Yeah, I'm excited for this. This is gorgeous. Beta Ray Bill looks amazing.
What I'm excited for about this is, okay, so they pulled in Beta Ray Bill. He's not like a top tier character. Like, he's definitely had a lot of screen time and stuff like that. Screen time as, like he's been in the comic book quite a bit. But the Ulik guy, like, he's classic, right? He's not modern era stuff. The fact that they're actually going to go through and pull out some of those good pieces from the past too.
Yeah. See, one of the criticisms that Atomic Mass gets is quite frequently they'll give you a box set where one of the characters is something that's interesting and the other one is something that you just don't care about. And whilst I can't say I completely agree, but I do understand where they're coming from. But this one really feels like it's the right way of doing it. Because, I mean, Beta Ray Bill is a character that everybody has wanted for a long time. He is, to some extent, I want to say he's kind of like their equivalent to Boba Fett. Because Boba Fett is kind of like an offside character that the community fell in love with. People have loved Beta Ray Bill since he was introduced decades ago. There's been screams for him to be in the MCU for a very long time. I don't really know how it would go in the MCU personally, but I'm still curious to see it. I think this is a very good box set. Ulik may be a bigger deal than I think he is. I just didn't recognize him. But I kind of feel like that, yeah, he is the filler for the box, but he's the right kind of filler.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And now we get to a negative story. So, some people may remember it might have even been roughly this time last year. There was a story of a small YouTuber doing an unboxing of some paints that she had purchased, and her paint video got taken down for copyright by a company called Green Stuff World. Now, it was a very long and convoluted story. I'm going to try and simplify it here for those that aren't familiar. Long story short, the paints that she was unboxing were by Vallejo. The original name for these was Color Shift, but Green Stuff World had a copyright on that name in regards to miniature paints in Spain. They're both in the same country. Vallejo were like, yep, sure, we'll change the name, no problem. But the problem is that, of course, some of these boxes are already out on shelves. So they changed the name, and one of the boxes that she purchased happened to be one of the old batch. And during her video, she calls them "What's on the box?" because that's what's to be expected. And then the video gets taken down by a copyright strike. Now, the first problem with this is obviously that's not how copyright works. At all. Even vaguely. The big story of this is that ultimately, after the community got behind and really went after Green Stuff World on this, they backed out and said, oh, we're sorry. It was a clerical error on our part. We've made a mistake. We've now fixed it. Oh, but we've also been talking with her this whole time.
But they hadn't.
No.
So.
After taking it down for copyright, when she emailed them, and I don't know if we knew this at the time or not, when she emailed them asking what was going on, they told her the honest truth, but then immediately turned around and said, but if you're interested, we'd love to send you some of our paints to review. Maybe we can collaborate. Because they're very clearly tone deaf on how that's going to come across. Anyway, in the end, they ended up apologizing in what we felt was very empty and basically just saying what they had to say to get people to be quiet. This has kind of gone in a similar direction. So the story with this
is absolutely worse.
Oh, I know it's worse.
It's flat out worse. It's not even on the same level.
So, this professional painter purchased a model from Green Stuff World, painted it up, posted it up on their Instagram, as you do. That's all well and good. A few days later, he happens to notice that his literal model, and I have it up here on screen, is now showing on Green Stuff World. Now, they do
with their logo.
They do credit that he painted it, but yes, they've edited the video. They've edited the image to make it look like an official image. They never asked if they could do this at all. They just stole the image and then put it up on their website to sell their stuff because painted minis sell better. I don't know if you know this. It's not exactly new news. When he complained, they used Photoshop to change the colors on the image. Twice, because the second one is not actually here. They do it a second time and just make it, they take the color away.
They only change the tie, the shirt, and his little backpack rocket thing. They don't change anything about the skin tone or the hair or anything like that.
Yeah. After telling him that they would remove it.
Yeah.
With an apology, they had told him they would remove it. Now, this is piracy. This is theft. There is no question about this. There is no if, buts, or maybe about this. And again, and after that, he then went to the community and said, hey, this is what's going on. I don't think this is his thread. I think this is somebody else talking about it. Yeah, this is somebody else talking about it. Now, ultimately, Green Stuff World end up making a deal with this guy to show it off, and they post this apology, which is... I'm just going to read it at this point, I think.
It's bullshit. It's
empty,
not even,
it's hollow.
Yeah.
basically what they did is they paid the guy off. I mean, the guy took the money he was entitled to. I don't know what that figure was. I would assume that it's probably a little bit more than what you would normally pay for a marketer to have done this for you. I would certainly hope so, given the insult that they've basically done, because they shouldn't just be paying for his time. They should be paying for the fact that they broke the law.
I was going to say, like, it's probably more than what the standard going rate is, just because, he had a good legal case against them to literally sue the pants off of them in court.
Wouldn't be the first person.
Of theft.
Wouldn't be the first person. This is really, really bad. Like, we have covered Green Stuff World once before in a similar vein, like as I said initially. We've also talked about their products here and there as well. Like, we kind of like, we let it go, and we eventually started kind of talking about them here and there again, because like they genuinely do have some good products. But here's the problem. A lot of their products are stolen. It's not just their artwork. And I actually have 2 examples. Unfortunately, I don't remember the name of the people that they stole these items from, but I'll give you as much information as I can. I want to give credit here to Discourse Miniatures, who is another YouTuber. Discourse Miniatures quite frequently picks up negative stories like they are one of those YouTubers that kind of concentrates on the negative. They go after Games Workshop quite frequently. Not unfairly, but it does, like, there are some people out there that don't enjoy that content. We are not one of those channels. We will certainly cover and hit things where they need to be hit, but we try to stay to the positive side. So you may or may not enjoy Discourse. In this particular case, they deserve all the credit in the world. And
absolutely. The research and content they provide on how crappy Green Stuff World is spot on, 100%.
Yeah. So this is what they call the Roll Maker. This was originally invented by a German man who decided to run a small business selling it. His version was made of a clear plastic and was invented, off the top of my head, I want to say 5 years before they came out with their own version of it. He was a person that sold one item. He was tiny. He couldn't afford a lawyer, so he just gave up and he closed his business as a result of this. They stole his work, and because he literally couldn't do anything about it, because he couldn't afford to, there was a business in China that invented the leaf punches. They did actually go after them for this. But yeah, like,
well, so I remember what the story was is Green Stuff World came up with theirs, did the same thing. This other company in China got a lawyer and filed the paperwork and everything, and Green Stuff World dropped because they're like, oh, we might actually have to spend money and fight this that we started, so we're just going to let it go.
So I believe, they had to pay. They had to pay to keep this, basically, is what ended up happening there. They also have a habit of not accepting orders from anybody that has a name from an Asian-sounding country, or that sounds vaguely like it comes from an Asian-sounding country.
No, I remember seeing this thread on Facebook.
It's been mentioned a few times, but there's actually evidence.
No, I mean, I remember seeing one of the original threads of this. Like, someone in a Warhammer 40K group was like they said, hey, I just ordered this stuff, and Green Stuff World canceled my order. And then he updated it. Oh, yeah, they thought I lived in China. And,
because they have an agreement with a company in China. I suspect that it's the same company, but I don't know that for a fact. And therefore, they make this assumption. They don't even check where people live. They just automatically cancel them. There's been evidence of people having their orders cancelled within Spain that had it cancelled because their name sounded vaguely Asian. It's something that you'll see get mentioned quite frequently. Like, look, that is something that I would argue is probably subjective, but it's not a good look. Green Stuff World have a habit of, when they get called out on things, ignoring them until they get too loud, and then offering an empty apology And I'm sorry, that's what these are. They are empty apology. They're not apologizing for what they did. They apologize that they got caught. And that is what this company is at this point. Green Stuff World also have a habit of flagging YouTube videos when they say negative things about Green Stuff World. Discourse literally starts the video by saying, this video may not exist next week. They may flag it, and I don't know what I'll be able to do about that because it's a problem. That may happen with our video too eventually, but we don't actually have monetization and we're small, so they probably won't even notice, or certainly not to the level that Discourse is. Green Stuff World sell a lot of really good products. They make almost none of them. They are a reseller, like Amazon, like everything else. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Some of these have been sold to them. Some of these have been stolen. There has been one other accusation, but I don't know if this one's true or not. Discourse didn't touch on the rollers, so I don't know if it's true or not. But I know that that's been another accusation that's been thrown at them in the past, because they may or may not have invented that as well. But I don't know on that one. And I'm not accusing them of that. I'm just saying that people have mentioned it before. So there you go. That's our negative story for the news. It's really bad. Green Stuff World. Look, if you want to buy stuff from Green Stuff World, go ahead. I would kind of ask that you try to spend your money elsewhere, personally. Because you're literally supporting a group of people that steal from
Well,
people.
I'm not even going to say that. They are targeting and stealing from members of the community that are helping promote their products.
Yeah.
If the dude used any sort of Green Stuff World paint on that bust, and they're going after him and stealing his stuff for making their stuff look good. Yeah. They don't care about us. They care about them and their bottom line. And the
continuing, because the very first thing that they said is that they were in negotiation with him. They hadn't even spoken to him at that point.
Yeah.
And they do this quite frequently to try to get the heat off them and make it look like the other person is lying. It's low and it's dirty. They make Games Workshop out to look like an innocent. And I'm not sitting here, that's not hate on Games Workshop, but they are not a clean business. But Games Workshop have never stooped to this level. Ever.
No.
I mean, you can look at a lot of the stuff that they borrowed for their lore, and I'm using that term very loosely because the accusation is certainly stronger. Like the 40k lore, a lot of that is borrowed from elsewhere. Most of it is borrowed from elsewhere, actually. They've just used it in a way that made it their own, and that's why I'm not saying that it's stolen. It was borrowed. Marvel did exactly the same thing with Thor.
Yeah.
For example. So you can't have a go at them stealing things when that's not really what they've done. They've taken something and then made it their own.
Which, and that's the thing too, there's actually something I watched a few days ago, about Led Zeppelin doing that, about everyone essentially doing that. But to actually just take someone's image, put your logo in it, put it up on your website and saying, hey, look at this, and not credit anyone, not pay for, those services rendered, or
and that is something that normally is paid for. People are normally, Games Workshop have a whole team of people they pay to do that for them. TT Combat, if they have something up on their website that is painted, they have paid for that to be painted. Maybe it's in-house, maybe it's not. That's hard to say. Those that don't have painted models on their websites are usually companies that can't afford to have paid for it. It's not like we're saying that they're doing something that everybody... this is not accepted normal practice. Games Workshop will advertise community models on their website. But you know what the difference here is? They ask for permission and those images are offered to them by the people that did it, not the other way around. That is the difference here. So
yeah.
So
ever since they did that to Naomi, I've stopped looking at their stuff. I have not purchased anything. After this, I'm gonna continue to do that, and to echo what you said, I would ask our supporters and members of the community that follow us to, respectfully, fund other companies. Give Vallejo money. Go buy 2 thin coats from what's his face, Duncan.
Yeah.
Do something like that. Green Stuff World, pass on it. I'm sure if you look hard enough, you can find whatever they're selling someplace else, probably for cheaper even.
Well, yeah, cheaper. Not necessarily cheaper necessarily, but you won't be paying a lot more money for it if you are paying more money. What you save on this website, you normally pay in postage anyway. Which is not the reason why that you would have a go, but it's hard. See, I did back. I don't actually think I've purchased anything since, but I've almost purchased from these guys several times. I'm just kind of glad that I didn't at this point.
Trim, glue, prime, paint.
Socks, you haven't spoken for a while. What are you up to?
I got some paint on some Black Suns.
Nice.
Some royal purple. It's going to have some gold trim on it here. And I've got some, what is it? Plague Bearer's flesh as their skin color. So hopefully that squad will be done this week. But we had a cold spell. George knows over the Christmas break, there was a big winter storm that blew across the country. And actually, we got to below freezing temperatures down here in Florida. So it was not fun to try and do some spraying. Or else I would have sprayed some stuff while I was waiting on other stuff to show up. So now that the temperatures are back up.
You can brush this on socks. It works with paintbrushes.
It's not as good, but you can do it that way.
It is better coming through an airbrush, but you can paint it on and get that base coat going.
Yeah. So I'm in the same. I'm having the same problem, but for the opposite reason. It's too hot here to use.
You're in the middle of your summertime. So.
Yeah. It's good to see you getting some paint done, though.
Yes.
Even if slowly.
What about you, Bruce? Or George? Whoever?
Well, so I took a few days off, and so I had a total of 10 days off. And Sam visited me for some of that. So I got some time in with my new table that I picked up. We played Massive Darkness 2. I got him Ticket to Ride Sails and Rails for Christmas. We played a couple of games of that. We got in a game of Scooby-Doo, which is one of the games I backed on Kickstarter. That table, I'm going to have to do a good in-depth on it, but after I redo the top so that I can do an actual wargaming on it, because it's slightly too narrow for wargaming. It's long enough, but it's not wide enough.
You knew that when you brought it.
Yeah, I absolutely knew that. Yeah, I knew from the get-go that I would be big enough to board game, not big enough to war game.
Yeah.
So, but for those of you who don't have a room to have a dedicated table set up all the time, or you don't want to have your dining room table taken over, this is a really good solution. Like I said, I'm going to have to do a good breakdown on it. But like I said, I'll probably do that in the spring when I start redoing the top.
Can I suggest it might be worth trying to film how you actually replace the tops or how you extend the tops? That might actually.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna. Yeah, that's part of my plan. Is here it is. This is what I'm gonna do to make it. It's all up here. It's gonna be straightforward and simple. It just I just need to do it, and I need to be out in my shop and not freeze to death while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
That being said, I did do some cleaning and rearranging, and I pulled this out, and I'm going to try to get some more of this put together this weekend.
How long have you owned that for at this point?
Let's
2 years?
See. Can you see the box?
Yeah.
See how much dust just came off on my finger?
I'm pretty sure it's been I think you bought that just before COVID.
No, I bought that way before COVID.
Yeah, so that's at least 3 years at this point.
Yeah.
It's all right. I've got things out there that have had for longer.
Yeah, but the price I got it for was like, I could buy like 2 more things and I could have like a Speed Freak like full on 40k army.
Yeah,
just 2 more models, I think. So for the price I got it for, I couldn't pass it up. So
yeah. So I've been working on things. I haven't done a lot of painting, but I did start getting these done. I've kind of shown these off to our Patreon yesterday and to a couple of friends. These road bases I did myself using an AK Interactive asphalt texture paint. I really like... I don't actually know if they turned out cracked like that because of how I applied it or if it's supposed to be that way. But given the setting of where they're going to be used, it works really well because it's supposed to be a worn city and like it's meant to be like a Gotham or a Detroit type situation where everything's kind of just in ruin. So I did these yesterday. They initially, like the road lines initially came out looking really wonky because it bled through the mask. I was using just normal masking tape, and I know it's not good. I know, but it's all I had, and I was kind of itching to get them done. And it bled through really badly.
Mm-hmm.
You notice how when he described crappy roads, he used a fictional city and then like an actual city that is actually falling apart. Like,
yes.
Did you hand brush those the road markings on?
Yes. So the whites were originally. So my original intention was that I was going to like sponge it on the white, but I changed my mind. I actually did those solid in the end, and then I added the roughness afterwards, and I think I'm very happy that I did that, especially given how much bleeding ended up happening, because it kind of would have ruined it, made it a lot harder to fix the other way. Where this way I had to come back in with black anyway.
I would almost suggest like what are your thoughts of like masking it and like airbrushing the stripes on like they actually do?
If it wasn't this hot, I would have done it that way to begin with.
Oh, it's fair.
Somebody had also suggested that it might be worth trying to create a template, and they're probably not wrong on that. Just create one where it's a solid line, one where it's a dotted line. And basically then all I have to do is move it and put it in place. Because my intention is I want them all to be different. There will be some where there'll be no road markings, and then I'll have part of the sidewalk there. And I was trying to figure out whether I wanted to do yellow lines or white lines, because I know that there are different places that have one or the other. And then I found out America apparently have both at the same time. And I'm like, oh, well, I can just do whatever I want then. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Yeah, we like our road markings all different colors.
So your white marking. So if you had a 4-lane highway, my understanding is that the white would be like this way and the in between of this way, and the yellow is what separates the two, or is it the other way around?
So it's more complicated. So I'm going to use the road right outside my house. It's a 2-lane highway. The yellow divides the 2 lanes.
Yeah.
If it's two solid yellow lines, you stay in your lane. You don't pass.
Yeah.
If I'm driving and it's dotted on this side, I can pass into the other lane.
That's normal.
And vice versa. Right. And then if you get into multiple lanes, the yellow lines are still the same thing, but then you have white lines that do the same thing. So if you have a solid white line, you can't go over that. If it's dotted, you can.
Correct me if I'm
wrong. And then
if
you have two solid sets of yellow lines, that means that's a center turning lane, and anyone can enter in that to turn across the lanes of traffic.
Socks, is it just me, or is he correcting me and actually saying the same thing I just did? Because that's basically what I said, but in more detail.
Yes, but we usually have white lines on the right side of our road, and on like a 4-lane highway, we'll have a yellow line sometimes on the left-hand side of our lane. And then the median, and then the 4-lane will have.
Why am I not surprised that different states in America do it differently? Why can't they have federal laws where they just all do it the same way?
Well, so on interstates it is because that's the federal road.
But
the
so I travel from Florida to Wyoming, and then I have to completely learn what the lines mean again. And don't get me wrong, like the break in the line, and like, I actually know all of because that's universal. Like that's literally the same over here in England. Like they are designed to be universal that way. The road markings were done early enough to make sure that they were easy to understand, even if you don't really know what it means. Because like the solid one, obviously I'm not allowed to go across it. The broken one means I am allowed to go across it. If they're both broken, then either can come across it.
Well, but there's an exception to that, Bruce. In major cities where they have a center turning lane, it's got double yellows on both sides of it, and then you can cross the solid yellow to get into that turn lane.
Because there's a gap there.
So that's...
Yeah.
It's...
The thing I found amusing is that all I was doing is like where the colors were used. And then you corrected me by saying more or less exactly what I said to begin with, but with more detail.
Well, and then it depends. Like, so if you're like at an interchange... Like, you can have yellow on your right and the left side of the roads as it's splitting.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yep.
So it's...
Over here, like, there were some yellow lines left for, like, really old roads that hadn't been redone. But it was a thing of, like, that they were phasing that out before I think even my mother was born. It's all white lines over here now. Like, the markings themselves all mean the same stuff. But everything is a white line now. I think largely because it's easier to see. Because yellow doesn't actually show up at night as well as white does. Unless they use a reflective paint.
Well, I was going to say it depends on what kind of paint. Because like in some cases here, if it's a high-traveled road, they actually don't even use paint. It's a glass-based plastic that's highly reflective, and they melt it into the asphalt.
Oh, that makes sense. They wouldn't have to redo them all the time then. Although, in saying that, they should be redoing their roads every so often anyway.
Well, no, when they redo it, they have to carve out the asphalt, lay down new asphalt, and then reapply the marking.
As opposed to just going over the top of it.
Or if it's concrete road base, like most highways are these days, especially in cities, they usually do a black stripe and then a white stripe on top of it because you can't see white on the concrete very well.
No, you wouldn't be able to. Concrete's horrible for roads too. Horrible. It doesn't hold up well.
It's all over.
Yeah, well.
Right, George?
I've got more asphalt than concrete, but yeah.
Yeah, you
way
would,
off topic.
So these...
Anyways.
On this episode of Getting Tabled, we talk about roads.
So these, for those that are not aware, this is what I have been calling the secret project. I officially announced...
Bruce, you have to do one thing.
Yes?
One of your minis, there has to be a manhole cover, but it's turned slightly so the lines don't match up with the other lines on the road.
Yes.
Okay, deal.
Yes.
I need a manhole cover. So this week... Wait, was it this week? What date is it? No, technically it was last... When did I do it? Was it the first or the second? No, it was definitely this year. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it was this week that I announced... No, it was last week because it was Sunday. I actually officially made like an actual public post about Entropy City for the first time. Like, I know that you've... Because obviously you have seen... Well, you've seen everything that you've looked at. I have been working on a miniature game for about 6 months now. In theory, it's a miniature game that I've been working on for 9 years. I just hadn't done anything with it. But I'm legit working on my own game at this stage. So, it is a thing. It's currently being play tested. I don't think we spoke about that publicly either yet. Patreon obviously knows about it.
No.
So I've had a couple of play tests.
Patreon knows all. Become a supporter.
Yep. They get access to the work in progress rule set and everything. It's not like a promise of the podcast Patreon. It's just something that I'm doing because it kind of made sense to me. It's a bonus that I'm doing. So like, because I'm also offering out to friends and stuff that are helping me playtest because, you know, they need to know what's going on. So I did a couple of playtests by myself. I've had a couple of playtests at this stage, just of the core rules, with friends. I had one on Friday. I've lost both of my games recently with other people because that's what you're supposed to do when you're demoing a game.
Except in your case, it's because you're rolling dice and dice hate you.
Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, in this particular case, I can't really blame it on the dice. It's that I take really risky moves just to try to show how the mechanics are supposed to work. I hit somebody over the back of the head in a surprise attack that should have been really brutal, and we both got taken out by that one attack.
Good job.
Yep, it was great. So far, things are looking promising. I mean, obviously, there's going to continue to be tweaks and stuff. I'm almost at the point where I want to start introducing the different rules for the different factions, because I'm doing this in phases as I go, because one of the things that I like, because I've had friends that have done games in the past, it was like they try to load everything all at once, and then if something's not working, they have to figure out what it is. So at this stage, I've only been doing the base core mechanics, the movement, and melee. I haven't even written rules for guns yet. There will be guns eventually. But I've left them out quite on purpose because I wanted to make sure the core of everything works before I started trying to figure out the guns. Because they won't be the most common thing anyway. And if they're the thing that break it, then at least I know that that's the problem and not the melee, because the melee already works. So that's where things are. Basically, it's a motorcycle gang combat game. Entropy City is the name of the game. It's not actually what the city's called. It's just the city's that worn and in that much turmoil that everybody that doesn't live there basically insults it.
Just look up Detroit ruins. That's what he's thinking.
Ironically, yes. Though I didn't know it at the time. By chance, if you've ever heard the name Entropy City before, and it's like, hey, and you're like, I know what that is, then yes, hello, you're listening to the 13th, because I've used it in other settings previously, in other roleplay settings that I've done before. So,
Talk nerdy to me.
all right, 2022 was a year, and it happened like many other years, but we were allowed to go places, so it's a bonus. Yes. Highlights of the year.
We were allowed to socialize.
Highlights of the year, lowlights of the year. I mean, some of them are obvious. I mean, we've already mentioned Dropsquard. That is very clearly a highlight for us because we have some personal connections there. But we're going to leave.
That's a topic for an entirely different time and place.
Yes. I'm only mentioning it at all because it's one of the ones that our Patreon brought up. Which was amusing because about 2 hours earlier we'd had that conversation and it was like, yeah, no, I don't want to talk about that because it's already in the news and I want to save it for when we're talking with Louis. Not that I suspect Louis will say much, but it's definitely a conversation that...
We can try.
Well, it's a conversation that we can have regardless of how much he's willing to talk about it. I mean, they haven't been working on it much at this point, so there's not a lot that he can really say.
Well, we can ask him to talk about that or ask him why we don't have a Getting Tabled Rumble Slam team yet.
Oh, God.
That one, too. Anyways.
The other obvious one is
I'm going to talk about that.
Oh, I know you are. And Louis already knows that you will, too. One of the other big ones and another obvious one is that people could actually, like, tournaments and that are actually happening again. Events are actually happening again. Like Gen Con and Adepticon last year were actual success stories, so that's definitely a good thing. I think I'd like to start on the positive side because we just got off a huge negative topic not that long ago. So I'm thinking socks.
So there is a small universe in a galaxy far, far away.
It's closer than you think, though.
It is true. That I play some games in Armada and Legion, but Atomic Mass Games announced, as we all know, Shatterpoint at the end of the year. And I am looking forward to hearing more about this. It's going to be demoed at the con. We do know that. And so we'll find out more from the community there. But I'm just looking forward to a little bit smaller scale in terms of armies. Almost like Star Wars Legion, but infinity-wise. type armies or MCP, and so I'm looking forward to
or kill team.
Yeah, exactly. I'm still on the fence of getting it because again, that is another game to get into, and my wife will kill me. But
are they not going to use the same models or?
No, they're different models. They're a different scale.
They're different models. They're different scale. They're MCP size. So yeah, that's the problem. So I would have to buy an entirely new miniature set because they are a little bit bigger than Legion.
You just bought her an SUV. You can get another game.
I know, but we just bought Disney World. I know you're correct, but we also just bought annual Disney World passes for the entire family too. So
oh my god, how are you not poor?
So my parents actually bought our tickets originally because they brought us down here as a Christmas present. That was their Christmas present to our family was Disney World tickets, just a 3-day pass, and then we upgraded those annual passes. So we're kind of trying to just lay low on fun expenditures right now.
Well, the good thing is that you don't have to worry about this for 12 months.
True. But this is one that I'm looking forward to and my highlight for last year.
Yeah. So I have to agree with you on this. As much as like we've given criticism for like how they've treated certain games, not X-Wing, the other one,
Armada,
thank you. And Legion has been pretty much doing gangbusters. It's kind of like and skirmish games is where the market is. Seriously, that is where the market is. The thing that excites me about it, at least in theory, is that it's not just going to be Marvel Crisis Protocol, but with Star Wars. They are apparently doing a completely different rule set, which is important because I don't think that would have translated well. But yeah, I'm very, very much looking forward to seeing where this goes.
One thing
as
someone who's not
go George.
I was gonna say as someone who's not going to buy this and not gonna get into this, I'm still like really excited to see this just because again this is one of those like stepping stones. Like it's much easier to like buy this kind of game and then the next thing you know in 6 months this person could be another Legion player because they started off on something that's a couple hundred. Oh, this is really cool. Oh, this is larger scale battle. Oh, I have to buy all of this stuff now. Like, it's financially like a good decision to like expand a good intellectual property into various platforms at different consumption levels.
Yeah. I don't remember who it was, but one of our local players on Friday was like when we were talking about Shatterpoint, their thoughts were something along the lines of they were disappointed because they were new models and not the old ones. I was like, well, yeah, but that's kind of the whole point and the reason why people are excited, because the larger models means more detail and therefore better miniatures. Also, why would you make something that you can't make money from? If you're a business and that's how you make your money. Yeah. I don't think that's a widely accepted thought, but yeah, I just thought it was an interesting point. George, you want to talk about Mythic?
Oh my god. So we ended the year talking about how Mythic sold off everything that wasn't nailed down.
Yes, and ironically, haven't passed off all of their. They still have membership in all of those groups, and are still posting in them, advertising their own products.
Right. So, well, they weren't advertising a product. Their first post of the year was not updating any of their extremely behind, haven't updated since October of last year Kickstarter campaigns. No, it was a Facebook post saying, hey, we've made a community response team. These people respond to American stuff, and these people will respond to the French stuff. That was the post.
So they made a public post and shared it everywhere. And the post was, we know we haven't been doing anything. We're still not doing anything. But now we're making an empty promise to do things. Why am I calling it an empty promise? Because until they actually do something, it's empty.
They have, which I am making. I don't know if I should be proud of saying it like this, but I'm making an effort to like hold them to the fire on this. Like, I have made numerous posts across the groups.
Oh, I know.
Because
they keep on coming up in my feed.
One of which, though, was on Super Fantasy Brawl Round 2, where they made this post. To which I said, did you sell this to CMON? Shouldn't you turn this page over to them?
To be fair, it was
because CMON owns...
It was a group, not a page. But yeah, the point still stands.
Yeah. Why are you even posting? At this point, people who are fans of Super Fantasy Brawl, I'm a member of that group now because I joined the group to find the article of what all Mythic was selling. The toxicity in that group of CMON acquiring that intellectual property was horrendous.
Yeah.
And
I'm
then
not
here's
surprised.
Mythic saying, hey, Super Fantasy Brawl people, this is what we're going to do on a game that we sold to another company and we don't care about anymore.
Yeah.
I'm
not surprised because it's not like I've ever been the only person that had problems with CMON. There is legit people out. I mean, they have a massive group of people that follow them. But what happens with any company when they get that big? They get a massive group of people that will try to tear them even if they don't deserve it.
Yeah. So, and then one of my other posts, and this made me laugh. And I said, hey, this is something you should have started doing 8 months ago, blah, 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 right? You've had a, campaign deactivated by Kickstarter.
Oh, yeah.
They had the audacity to say, no, this hasn't been deactivated. This is actually da-da-da. And I'm like, but if you go to the page, it says it's been deactivated by Kickstarter. Like, does deactivated mean something different in French?
Nope.
I think so.
They had this happen. They had this happen with a previous campaign that was still delivered, despite that. And I assume that's what they're trying to bank on, is people remembering that. But that's an assumption. Obviously, I don't know if that's what their thought was. But the fact that they can actually point at that gives them something that they can. They're just trying to make you quiet.
They're basically trying to make it look like they're not opening their mouth, inserting their foot, and just haven't lit a new dumpster fire to start the year. As it is right now, backers on all the campaigns have not seen or heard anything.
No,
as far as an update, I even went as far as taking a screenshot of Kickstarter saying you need to be updating your campaign once a month, and emailed that to Mythic saying, where's my update for Hell? This is what Kickstarter says you need to be doing.
Yep.
This may surprise you. I haven't gotten an email back.
Oh. I wonder if that's because they know that you're trolling them. I'm just going to play devil's advocate for 1 minute, and I'm only going to do it at this point because I know I'm not going to disagree with anything else that you say. If they have legitimately created this team, and if this means that they are actually going to start doing something, then I can understand why they're making an effort to get this into as many people's eyes as possible. Because it's the only chance they have of surviving at this point. In saying that, I will believe this when I see it. And at this point, even if it does exist, I suspect... So the problem is that everything they've done up until this point has all been very suspiciously close to what scammers do to make people be quiet. Because, oh no, we're working on it, we are. It's just that it's been delayed because of it's happened again and again and again and again and again. Make no mistake, they would not have sold all of their cash cows if they weren't in trouble. There's no way they would have sold them if they didn't have to. Whether that means that it's because of their own fault or not is completely irrelevant. If they are using that to try and now turn the corner, that's great. But shouting about it isn't fixing anything. You need to show something. You need to show people that you've actually done something. And you need to start by fixing Darkest Dungeon. Because... holding on to people's... I understand that some people have gotten that. Some people from retail, which we didn't speak about because we couldn't verify if it was true or not. It is true. We've seen evidence of it. It was being sold for 50% off over Christmas and New Year's. Which is definitely less than people paid for it on Kickstarter. That is evidence of how much trouble this company is in, because there is no way they would have sold it that cheaply if they didn't have to.
If they're not desperate.
Yeah.
And like I said, yes, I am going out of my way and making an effort to do this. However, if they would just simply post, nothing new to update, we're still waiting on this, or you don't have to make every update with something like, this is what's happening, this is where we're, just like, hey, nothing's going on, we're still at this point. You're updating me. That's fine. You're making that effort. To sit there and not say anything and be like, oh yeah, we're doing this, which is completely different from what we said 4 months ago when we last updated, and now we're not holding on to any of the promises we've made a year ago, because that's how far behind they're on and everything, is the problem.
Yeah.
If they would just, make an honest statement once a month of nothing new, cool. No, nothing new. You're working on like 6 things. I get that.
Even if that update is going to upset people, because I think the only way they're going to help, the only way, Darkest Dungeon is a problem now, because they're selling it at 50% off, which means there's absolutely no way that they can continue to make the argument that they can't ship it out, because they're literally selling it for half the price that everybody else paid for it. That also means, what they need to do is they need to come to the party and actually just deliver them, assuming that they haven't sold them, because that's the other problem, is that the accusation is that they have sold for 50% off somebody else's property. So either they all need their money back,
that person did,
or if those parcels still exist, they need to be shipped to the customers at your expense. And I would argue that those that chose to pay for extra postage should be receiving a refund as well. Because if you weren't capable of doing that, you wouldn't have sold it at 50% off.
Well, here's the other thing too, that massive sale they were having over Christmas, they were charging the same shipping fees as, before they said, hey, we need more money for shipping.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, it was cheaper shipping too. So like, say someone shelled out $90 for shipping, and then Mythic's like, we need another 60 from you for this. The 50% off sale over Christmas was the same shipping before they asked for more money.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So, they've literally just gone from one dumpster fire to another dumpster fire. They've talked about how they're going to fix everything, and haven't actually done anything yet.
But they also haven't said how they're going to fix everything. All they've done is say that they've created a team that will answer people's questions. That hasn't fixed anything. It just means that in theory they're going to answer emails.
Last year they sold off all the intellectual properties and they restructured.
Oh yeah,
and this is going to help them focus on getting all this stuff out. And in addition to that, they have this community response team to communicate with the community on like the status of the projects. Do you remember was it What's Up Wednesdays?
Yeah, but he's not.
Where the hell are those at?
Yeah.
That was the communication the backers want. They were already doing it and they stopped. And now we're in this situation and they have to figure out something else. When if they just kept doing what they were doing, they wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Now, I think it probably is worth noting, like, yes, they sold all of this stuff. It's probably unlikely that they have that money yet, because those purchases are probably still in the processes of going through. I would be very surprised if they weren't. So that's also probably part of the reason why they still, because they're trying to survive until that money arrives, is probably part of the problem. Having created this team now is obviously a desperate move, but if this conversation is still happening in 2 months, then I don't think they will survive this year, despite what I assume is millions of dollars coming in again. If I was a backer of any of those campaigns, I would still be extremely nervous if not even more nervous now. Because, yes, they've just sold a whole heap of stuff to, in theory, help you. But if nothing changes, and none of what they have to do at this point is going to be easy. Everything they do now is going to be hard. If everything they are working on gets delivered by the end of the year, which would be ridiculous, like even for a company that's organized to have gotten all of those, 5 campaigns out within 12 months, that's just not feasible.
6.
6?
6.
Yeah, like it's not possible to actually get all of that done in 12 months.
I think it's 6.
Because you're usually looking at least a month or 2 of shipping. But they are still in very bad straits. Like they can't do anything because nobody will give them money until this stuff is done.
Well, just as a prime example, it wasn't on Kickstarter. It was only on GameFound. One of their other games that they're going to turn to a flagship, Necromancers, barely broke the 500,000 mark.
Yeah. And I'm surprised it went that far, honestly. I can't believe they made any money on that at all. I don't understand how people were willing to give them money at that point. Now, and saying that, George, every time we've spoken about this off camera, how often have I pushed against you trying to make you see that it's not all that way?
Probably 60% of the time.
And how much of that me agreeing with you has been recent? All of it?
The last 40 days.
Because as much as we've spoken about this, I've been very, very cautious on this story.
Yeah.
I take all of that back. 100%. Because this isn't a company that's gone bankrupt and is trying to hide the fact that it's because of their mistakes and trying to point fingers at other people that have nothing to do with it. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
This is a company that is spamming campaigns, which was a problem, and then didn't do anything to actually keep up with them. And as far as we can tell, didn't even try. At this point, they are a scammer until they prove otherwise.
Yeah, and you were correct. They are on 5 undelivered campaigns at this point.
As much as I'm upset that somebody else stole my money and then blamed somebody else for it disappearing, I don't want who that is to be said. I'm not calling that person a scammer because that's just somebody that was unfortunate during a bad time. This, in my opinion, is a company that has been scamming their customers out of their money. Because they have done nothing but prove to someone that was defending them that that's all they've been doing from the start. I have not once ever even hinted that CMON were like that. In fact, quite the opposite. During my rants, I always make a point of saying this is not the way that they are. So yeah.
Also, some good news. Did you see the most recent post from CMON?
Yes. Oh, speaking of which, for those that are wondering, the He-Man game is not being sold in Australia right now. That was a pre-order that they accidentally forgot to put the pre-order logo on, which is pretty much what I said to you in the message. But just in case some of those people are listening.
The thread I was on, the guy said, yeah, someone saw it sitting on the shelf.
No.
And I was like, yeah. So, but yeah, no,
that's
the
physically
email
not
is
possible.
out. Australia should start receiving the He-Man game end of January-ish. And then January, February is when America and most of the rest of the world will start receiving it as well.
Yep. So for those that are wondering, it's probably going to be late January, early February, where I might end up eating crow. I will be unboxing that. I will be giving it a fair review. And I'm looking forward to playing it.
So am I.
Eugene, you and I are playing He-Man in February. It is happening. So, I have a story too. What was I going to talk about? I actually don't remember now.
The one miniature that we said Games Workshop
that's right.
you need to redo, and they did.
Yeah,
and they did a brilliant job at it. I think even Fox liked it.
I think you're right, actually. Unless he's been disconnected.
That or he taped a photo up to his camera and left the room.
Oh no!
Oh wait, no, there he's moving. There's signs of life.
So, Games Workshop this year, and I kind of feel silly doing like. There was a couple of different stories that I was going to do. One of them was another negative, and I chose not to do that because I felt that it's just going to mean that we'll end up talking about it twice. There's a lot to the secret weapon story that we didn't cover that we do know for a fact. So that could have very much been a low light for this year, but I didn't want to cover it because we're going to cover that later on in a more official capacity. But for the Eldar, we got the Avatar of Cain this year, which is a model that has been desperately in need of a resculpt for about 15 years, if not longer. Because that is one of the oldest minis that they've had for a long time. We did a thing, I don't think it was last year, I think it was the year before, where we did a story of what is the miniature that needs to be done the most. And I don't actually remember if it was you or me that said it. I'm pretty sure it was me. Because I think you were saying somebody else at the time, and you eventually agreed with me.
I think it was a Blood Angels character that I said needed to be redone.
Dante.
Which I think, yes. Which I, so... But no, so I used to, actually, I think I might have it somewhere, but the old Avatar model is, roughly about yay tall, like on par with like the Dreadnought, the normal Dreadnought.
Yep.
And this one that they've released is glorious and amazing because the original Avatar, it's the pose of the sword, that's it. This one, you have weapon variations. 3 weapon variations?
Yep.
Different heads? Oh, and twice the height? And it's glorious looking.
I still need to build mine. Like, genuinely, I haven't built mine yet. I really need to get around
Is that the one that got the boot print on it?
Yes.
I shouldn't laugh at that.
The miniature was fine. It's okay. My postman booted it, by the look of it.
But that was my main concern about sending you the Colonel was like, is that going to get, mangled in the post? Because, like the Avatar of Cain getting mangled, yeah, that's terrible. But the Colonel, we can't let the Colonel get mangled.
Well, given that I paid let's not go there.
Roughly about the same price.
Yes, yeah, I paid more for it than I wanted to. Was where I was going to go. There's a story behind that it's okay. Yeah. This felt amazing for a few reasons. I mean, yes, obviously the model is gorgeous. It's also won Miniature of the Year for Games Workshop. I voted for it. I know not everybody did. I voted for this because had
I known about that, I would have voted for it too.
So it was already a gorgeous miniature, but the fact that it needed to have been done so much puts it on the level of the clown guy that got done into the really scary skeleton from Fantasy. Oh, it doesn't matter.
Oh, wait. Oh, you're talking the big undead guy?
Yeah.
What's his name? I'm gonna look it up real quick. Nagash.
Nagash, thank you. It puts it on that sort of level because that very much felt the same. I think I'd probably say Nagash is a little bit nicer again. But yeah, I mean, it's just the miniature was gorgeous. It's also something that needed to be done quite desperately. And because we were probably one of the first people that actually openly were talking about this needs to be done and this needs to be done soon.
Well, it's so much of that Eldar line need to be redone.
Yeah, and they are making an effort on that. There's still a lot of it that needs to be redone, and that's fine. They just need to be doing it frequently. But yeah, that was my highlight of the year. I mean, I could talk about a lot of things for my highlight. I mean, the fact that I am actually doing something with my game and that it is actually being play tested 6 months earlier than I expected that it would be, and that it's getting good positive responses. I mean, that's obviously a highlight, but it's kind of irrelevant as far as the industry is concerned. I'm nobody. Moonstone was another one. I discovered Moonstone this year, and it was good. Well, no, I discovered it the year before, but I bought it this year, and it was gorgeous.
Here, yeah. I'm gonna change my mood a little bit because I just clicked on something. I'm like, oh yeah. Here, after the way I just went off on Mythic, here's my highlight of the year. And unfortunately, it is a Games Workshop highlight, but this is my highlight of the year. We got squats back.
That's a really good point, actually, because that is something legit. Most people said would never happen.
I literally just clicked on something, and there's the little 6-wheel vehicle thing. I was just like, oh yeah, we got squats back.
That's that's actually a really
good
point.
The name is good. They're so good. They got banned before they were even released from tournaments. I mean, but we got them.
Yeah,
and we have them. So there's my positive for the year.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good call. I had thought of that initially, and I was like, yeah, but that's not really.
Oh, look, Socks is nodding and agreeing.
2022 was, I think it was a fairly positive year for the industry. I mean, yes, obviously there's always going to be good and bad. There was good and bad in our stories last year too. But overall, like, the industry has done really, really well. I still say, like, the shipping crisis is obviously still going to continue being a problem from here. I do kind of feel, I still feel that we're going to see the end of big box games, because Kickstarter was kind of like the last ditch way of getting those done at that point. There's still people doing, but we'll see. We'll see.
I mean, to throw this out there, Awaken Realms, the makers of Nemesis and Nemesis Awakening, they've been fairly prolific too. They only did a Kickstarter for Nemesis and Nemesis or
Lockdown was a Kickstarter.
Lockdown. Yeah. But the other ones, ISS Vanguard, Ragnarok, Grail Kings or something like that, those have all been just exclusively on GameFound.
Yeah.
The difference is they're still updating and posting, so stuff's happening at least.
Yeah.
Mythic. Pay attention.
Oh, don't worry, they know. I think part of the problem is that if they don't have anything positive to say, they're trying not to make things look even worse, but that is then making it look like they're ignoring it, even if they're not. I don't think for a second that they are intentionally ignoring everything, but the problem is that until they show evidence that they've done something, all they can be looked at is a scammer, because they're not actually showing any evidence of their work. But it is possible that there's a whole lot of work going on. I mean, no company is ever out there trying to go out of business on purpose. But the other problem is, because as much as they and other people want to point at, yes, but it's because of the pandemic, that's not what's caused their problem at all. It's all been mismanagement. I mean, there has been there's been hirings and firings that's affected it as well. One of which went really badly for them in the end, quite publicly. Which is a shame, because I was genuinely a fan of that person. I used to follow his previous exploits elsewhere. Obviously, something was going wrong there. Maybe it was because of the way the company was dealing with things. It's impossible to know. But yeah, 2022 was good. I think it's time we move on. Let's get some upcoming events done.
Tournaments, demos, conventions, that kind of stuff.
First things first, Adepticon is somehow literally around the corner. I don't know how it's only 2 months away already, but it's literally at the end of March. It's March 22nd till 26th. That's... I did look up on the dates because I'm thinking it is somewhere in the first quarter of the year. Oh, crap, it's really close. I probably should have been talking about this in December.
Well, so Bruce, when the Earth revolves, and every 24 hours, that's a new day. So every time it revolves, we get 1 day closer. So.
Oh, wow. You're so smart, George.
I did also look on the expeditioners and sponsors. TT Combat is listed on there. I don't know if that's the list from last year. So they may be there.
It shouldn't be at this point, so they should be there then, yeah.
I have to agree. That should be this year's list. So TT Combat.
You should sell your Disney Park Pass, and then you will have money to go.
The funny thing is I just moved from up there within like an hour and a half of where the Adepticon is at.
So Adepticon is another one of the big events for those that are not aware. I know for a fact that Corvus Belli have a big release that's happening that weekend. Last year they did those really cool alien-looking dudes, the Morats, which was another one of the highlights for last year. They were gorgeous. For this year, they're redoing a faction of Bakunin from the Nomads, which I'm looking forward to because that's what I play. We also have a Moonstone event coming up. So this is... Close the chat, Jason. So Mayhem and Mischief, Only Fools and Norses. I love the name. The name is brilliant. It's taking place at Bristol Independent Gaming. It's been done by Joe Parsons and Moonstone Players, so it's an official event of the group. It's taking place in Bristol, United Kingdom on January 21st. So get along if you're in that part of the world. Moonstone is amazing, and they tend to run their tournaments in a way that's actually quite beginner-friendly as well. So, yeah, should be good. And then finally, we have... Go away. January 15th at 1 p.m. January 15th. I can't tell you what time because it tells me the time for me locally. We have a Conquest Leagues tournament taking place at Discover Games in Fayette. What's GA? Georgia? Okay. I never would have guessed that one. Apparently they're located next to the Firehouse Subs behind McDonald's. So food's easy to get there too. This is a standard...
Good food's easy to get.
Well, I don't know about good. Macca's is there, but
no
food.
No, Firehouse Subs. Firehouse Subs makes Subway look like garbage.
Oh, that's actually the name of... Oh, okay. Never mind. I didn't know that was the name of a shop.
It's actually really good.
I thought maybe Subs was an area of the town, and then it was the Firehouse in that area of the town. Standard 2,000 point tournament. There's a player pack and everything available. If you like what we do, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Patreon.com/gettingtabled. The tournament is... the competition is continuing. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, there's an entire Shaltari fleet that's being given away. You get a Dreadnought, you get the starter pack, you get a Cruisers box and a Frigates box. All of this is going to one lucky winner. You get an entry for every month that you support us between now and when it's drawn at the beginning of April. It will include April, just for the record. Yeah. Follow us on social media. Facebook.com/gettingtabled. Twitter is @gettingtabled. As much as that's a dead platform right now. Instagram is @gettingtabled.
Yeah. What's the other one? YouTube.com/gettingtabled.
Yes. And our website's gettingtabled.weebly.com.
And you can email us at gettingtabled@gmail.com.
That's true. And if you would like to come along, I will be twitching. I returned to Twitch on Tuesday. I was supposed to do it last week, but unfortunately when I was trying to set up, I snapped my camera arm. And I'm like, oh, well, I can't really paint now, can I? Which is what I was going to do at the time.
You could, but your camera angle would look really crappy because you didn't have anything to support your camera with. So,
well, I would have not been able to show what I was doing. They just would have looked at my face. That really would.
Well, no, you could have grabbed the camera, pointed at it, then set it down, painted, then grabbed it, pointed, and set it down.
Yeah, no. I will most likely be gaming on Tuesday night. It's going to depend on how things are going. But I am there Tuesday night around 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Anything from you, Socks?
Nope. Hope to get my Black Suns done. Hope to get my lats finally done too.
Do you have a tournament coming up this week?
You can't just call them black.
Lats.
Oh. I heard
These
Black
guys.
Suns. I was like,
I still gotta get those guys done. We do have a. It's not a tournament. It's a demo day on the next Saturday at Critical Hit Games here in town. So casual play / demo games. So if you're in the local area, want to get some Legion in, interested in Legion, I'll be there. So,
yep. Go and get a jumper, Socks. It looks like you're cold.
Not too bad.
All right.
He doesn't know what cold is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For listening to Getting Table. Music used in this podcast was created by Eric Matyas at soundimage.org.
But now we have him saying doo-doo, so we can replace that in the opening intro.